On the morning of December the 6th, 1907, an explosion in number 6 and number 8 shafts of the Monongah mine killed 362 men. The next dawn, 363 of us walked back out of the smoke. The extra one was not on the shift list. He knew where my dead were buried. My name is Dafydd Pritchard. They called me Davy on the site. Welsh family, second generation. My father worked number 6 from 1889 until a roof fall took him in 1901, and I stepped into the same drift the following week because the company store script did not leave room for other arrangements. I was 42 years old on December the 6th. I left our house on Maple Avenue with my son Owain, 14 years old, at 4:45 in the morning. Our youngest had been in the ground since June. Typhus took her that summer with 26 other children from the town, and the grave diggers buried them all on the hillside plot east of St. Anthony's Catholic Church, marking each row by number only because there were too many, and the men were exhausted. Father Lekston said the names over each child and kept a ledger, but the ledger was in his keeping, not in stone. I knew the plot from a chestnut tree at the corner of the cemetery fence. Every Sunday after Mass, I walked from that tree 7 rows in and 3 markers across, and stood there until I had said what I needed to say. No other person in Monongah held that count. I had not told Glennis, my wife, because I did not think it was the kind of number a mother should have to carry. At the shaft house, I surrendered my brass tag to the cage man at the board. Every miner had a tag with his number stamped into it. You put it on the board when you went down and took it back when you came up. My number was 214. Owain's was 215. Tommaso Carapalucci, Italian, from the number 8 gang, was behind us at the board. Father Lekston was at the shaft mouth with his stole on. He blessed the cage at sunup on Wednesdays, and this was a Wednesday. My mother had taught me a Welsh hymn. She said her own mother sang on the collier boats out of Cardiff. The descent took 5 minutes. I sang it twice. Act 2. At 10:28 in the morning, I was 1,100 feet down in a side gallery off number 8, working a pillar room with Tommaso Carapalucci, Bogdan Wisnowski, a Polish miner, and a Hungarian boy named Ferenc, whose last name I could never hold in my mouth properly, and I am sorry for that now. The explosion came through the rib of the coal seam before it came through the air. You felt it in your boots first, a press like someone had struck the floor from the other side of the world. And then the pressure wave came down the gallery and the gas lamps went out and the air turned black. Not dark, black. Dark is the absence of light. Black at 1,100 feet after a methane flare is a substance. It has weight and it gets into your mouth. Tommaso was coughing beside me. I found his arm. I found the rib wall with my other hand. The rooms and pillars layout of number 8 was in my legs from 6 years working it, and I will tell you that is not a figure of speech. A man who works a seam long enough navigates it the way a blind man navigates his own house, by the distance between steps and the angle of each turn. We found Bogdan in the second room. We did not find Ferenc. 200 feet up the main entry, approaching the number 6 connector passage, I heard singing. Welsh singing, the same hymn my mother had taught me, the same words, the same tune I had sung twice in the cage that morning. I want to be careful here because I know what it sounds like. The number 6 connector at that moment, with the fire damp having run through both shafts from a single ignition point, should have contained no living man. I did not go toward it. Tommaso pulled my arm and I let him pull it, and we continued up the entry. I have thought about that decision every day for 25 years. We came out at the air shaft mouth at 11:41. The rescue captain counted survivors 3 times because the number would not come out right. 363 men walked out of number 6 and number 8. The official toll the Fairmont Coal Company gave the newspapers was 362 dead, and that number never moved. The rescue captain crossed out his log entry and wrote 362 and did not explain the change to me when I asked about it the following spring. He said the count gets confused in the smoke. Act 3. I want to tell you about the man at the back of the line. As survivors came out of the air shaft, the rescue crew directed them north of the head frame, away from the smoke still rising from the number 6 collar. I stood to the side and watched the men come past because I was waiting for a Wayne, who had been in a number 6 side room and would come from a different direction. The man who came out last, after all 362 other men had come out ahead of him, was wearing a brass tag with the number 214 stamped into it. My number, I will say again so you write it correctly, 214. My number. I had surrendered my tag at the board that morning and taken it back at the air shaft mouth. I was holding it in my hand. There is one 214 tag in the Monongah mine records, 1 blank per man. Owain got 215 the day he started. There should be exactly 1 214 tag in the world, and I was holding it, and the man at the back of the line was wearing it. His face was unburned. I need you to understand what that means. The methane pressure wave drives fine coal dust into skin at 1,100 feet. Every man who came out of number 6 and number 8 that morning had black powder burn on his face and hands. You could not wash it out for 3 days. Some of the men had it in the whites of their eyes. The man at the back of the line had a clean face, not pale, not scrubbed, clean. The way a face is clean when it has not been underground. He came to where I was standing. He stopped. He was close enough that I could see the number on his tag. He said, in Welsh, in the words and the accent of my mother who had been dead 11 years, "The boy is with her now, Dafydd. The grave on the hill is the right one. The little one she sang the hymn to before she went is buried in the right place." I had told no one which hill plot my youngest daughter was in. The row count from the chestnut tree was in my head alone and had never left my mouth. My mother had been dead since 1896. In the week before the typhus took my daughter, she had come to our house and sat in the chair beside the bed and sung the same Welsh hymn to the child, her voice going thin but steady because it was the only comfort she knew how to make. I had not spoken of that to anyone. Then he said, "The row count. 7 rows in from the chestnut tree. 3 markers across, the exact numbers in Welsh in my mother's voice. I did not answer him. I stood still, and I did not answer him in any language. After a moment, he walked past me into the town. Act 4. There is a rule older than the Monongah seam. My father told it to me when I started on number 6, and I believe it came over from Wales with the first colliers, folded into the back of someone's memory the way the hymn came over. When a man walks out of the smoke wearing your number and knowing you're dead, you do not answer him in your mother's tongue. You do not look at the tag. You do not ask his name. You let him walk past you into the town, and you do not turn to follow him. I did all 3. I did not answer. I looked at a point on the head frame above his shoulder. I let him walk past me into Monongah, and I did not turn. He went through the doors of St. Anthony's Catholic Church. The bodies from number 6 and number 8 were being brought up through that day and the next, wrapped in canvas and carried on litters to the church, which was serving as the makeshift morgue. The Italian families, the Polish families, the Slovak families, the Hungarian families, the Welsh families, all their women waiting at the church doors, Father Lekston logging each body as it came in. 3 days after December the 6th, Father Lekston came to my house on Maple Avenue. Glennis gave him tea and then left the room. He told me he had counted 364 bodies inside St. Anthony's on the night of the 6th. He had counted them himself, body by body, because the logging was his responsibility. 364. The official toll the company gave the newspapers was 362 and never moved. Father Lekston did not tell me whose body the extra one was. I did not ask. I suspect he blessed it the same as the others. I am grateful for that. It seems to me the right instinct, even if I could not tell you the theology of it. Owain came out of the number 6 connector an hour after I did. He was 14 years old. Black powder burn on his face and hands, walking on his own feet. He works the surface now. He has not been underground since that December. Act 5. I am 67 years old, brown lung from 30 years in the seam. The Monongah mine closed permanently in 1928 after Consolidation Coal pulled the track and brought the head frames down. I am talking to you today because in 1923 the town widened the road east of St. Anthony's for a motor car route, and the chestnut tree at the corner of the hillside plot had to come down. They moved some of the typhus graves to a new plot on the other side of the church. I do not know which ones they moved. The ledger Father Lekston kept is with the diocese in Fairmont, and I have been told twice that the records from 1907 are in storage and not accessible. I visit both plots on Sundays after Mass now, the old and the new, and I say what I need to say at each one, because I do not know which is hers. What I am afraid of is this. When I die and they go to bury me near her, as I have asked them to do, I am afraid they will choose the wrong plot, the wrong row, and she will be alone on the hill without me close by. And I am afraid the man from the smoke will come for the count. He knew the 7 rows and the 3 markers. He knew the chestnut tree. The chestnut tree is gone, but he knew where it was. Pinned comment. coal miners, underground utility crews, submarine sailors, disaster recovery workers, morgue staff, hospice chaplains. What is one rule from your line of work that civilians do not understand the weight of? Something you never count twice, or never say out loud at shift change, or never do until you are back at the surface.